Sarva Vedanta Siddhanta Gocharam Tamagocharam Govindam Paramanandam Satgurum Pranatosmyaham. So we have spoken and said Maya is ignorance, and this does not mean that Maya itself is ignorance, because if Maya is the cause of the universe, and this cause of the universe was ignorance, then there will be no chance to figure things out. In fact, this cause, if it puts things together, if you don't know how to put together a house, that means you're ignorant of putting together a house. Can you put together a house? No. So therefore, if Maya is that which creates and puts things together, then naturally it cannot be ignorant. It has to be all knowledge. So by that, you cannot say that Maya itself is ignorance, but rather when it operates at the level of one individual, then it just hides. And that hiding of information is what we call ignorance. I don't know. So it's not this thing out there that's trying to make you not know. It's just how things are. That's the setup. This is the beauty of understanding the teaching. You stop asking why was I born ignorant? Why could I have just not remained, knowledgeable? Because that's just how things are. As simple as that. That's the creative power of Maya. That's how it's thought it through. Well thought through, where though we become ignorant, we still have a chance to remove that ignorance. It's simple as that. Sometimes people ask, what is ignorance? What's the nature of ignorance? Where did ignorance come from? These questions have no bearing. It's very simple. Ignorance makes you say, I don't know. What is there to philosophize? What is there to know more about that? I don't know. Now that I don't know, what do I have to do? I have to come to a place of knowing. From I don't know to I do know. Simple. So we are given that key at all times to know. And that key is also given to you by Maya. So you cannot say that Maya is there to trick us, the great trickster of life. This is all beginner language that we hear. Maya, the great illusion. What else have we heard? The great trickster. Anything else you heard? The illusion is the biggest one, of course. The magician, or probably another one that people say. Illusion, this is the most common one. We said,
The one who obstructs.
The one who obstructs. You see, we said the pot, you cannot call that pot an illusion. It has a functional reality. There's a certain trueness to it, but it's a mithya. You don't call it asat. Asat is illusion, or tucham. Tucham or asat, that's illusion. That's like sky flowers or square circle or cold fire. That's called illusion.
Makes the impossible possible.
It's that which makes the impossible possible. I heard this also. No, I would not use that. Although it has a context, so probably I might use it. But also it is that which is not. That which is not. It makes that which is into what it's not. So these are all proper contextual words to use for Maya. But in this session, in this course, we will probably not use that. Or who knows, maybe it's going to come out. Okay.
The manifestor.
The manifestor is also the manifestor, yeah, the cause of the universe. Okay. So there's many names, and let me be clear here. None of them are wrong. Because to say, let's do justice to our teachers. They say these various names, but for a certain reason, for a certain context. So someone may say the great trickster. Why not? It's poetical language. It depends on who you're talking to. The great illusion. There's no problem with that. But then you have to cancel that out and make sure that you don't leave an idea in the student's mind. Because if they walk out thinking now the world is there to delude me, then that forms aversion. Aversion for the world, and thus I stay away from the great trickster, and then I see you as illusions. And that's not going to lead to a healthy relationship dynamic with the spiritual seekers. And so it carries these funny ideas that you can almost tell, almost like there's a strange aura, like a strange, weird spiritual aura. You know, like this is a great illusion and we're here to all just little victims and we're being puppeted by Maya and we need to come out of this and do not let Maya trick you. Maya is your savior. Maya is the most, it's love itself.
Very intelligent. It's lovely.
It is intelligence.
Yeah.
It is just pure intelligence. It is the most divine, the most glorious. So all that is here is intelligence, because we say it's Maya manifesting this. Who's tricking me? You can trick me, but Maya hasn't tricked me. So I cannot say that because I got tricked by life, because of my own irresponsibility or the circumstances that came my way, then I generalize that and I say, Maya, the whole thing is one big trickster. No, Maya just offers you tools, resources. You say, here, use it, my dear. You've got the online information. You've got all these resources to you. Use the best of it. And you make the best of it. And you realize, Maya, you have been guiding me all along. You are indeed the most glorious and the most worshipful and the most worthy. You have been there all along.
Is it the same as Ishvara?
We're getting to that.
And also like overthinking and leads to separation, so divorce, it is also the Maya, because of the Maya.
Everything you can possibly think about, any behavior, anything, is just offering possibilities. Now there's a possibility for me to go out there and flirt with a married woman, but that has a consequence on her and on me. So anything is offered to me, a possibility. But when I exercise, though the possibility is given, and I choose to say yes to it, even though empirically it would not be the right thing to do, then what happens, there's a feedback system. And it lets me know I'm not indeed a wise person. So yes, it's all just created. Creator is Maya.
I've never looked so far at Maya, at intelligence or something that is here to support me to find more knowledge. Is there a god or goddess that represents Maya that I can worship?
Yes, so if I understood this, is there a god or goddess that I can worship that represents Maya?
Yeah, because worshiping Maya is difficult because it's...
Of course, super. So we're getting to this now. You see, because we said that Maya is this intelligence, like where? All I see is forms, right? But in fact, you can see this intelligence, can't you? In everything. So now, what do I worship? I can worship a cockroach if I want. But because it's a very hard thing to worship, this is why we have devas and devatas, because they invoke a certain amount of emotion in you that is, right, for you, for your personality. Someone maybe likes a brave Hanuman, the brave devoter, with the chest wide open, Rama, and Sita is in there. Someone likes a more cheerful, more outgoing Krishna. Someone likes a more dangerous, fierce Kali. Someone may like a more intelligence, the one who's the bearer of intelligence, Saraswati. Someone may like, of course, that power, that forward movement, Durga. Someone may like that, that intelligence in the form of the one who helps you remove those obstructions from life when you take responsibility. Therefore, Ganapati, Ganesha. Someone may like the one who removes those old moments to give way for the new, who removes ignorance, Shiva. And someone may like the appreciation for new life, Brahma. Often it's not that popular because we often like Shiva, the one who removes, because Brahma just keeps on creating. But you actually want to remove what is created. And someone may like the sustainer who's taking care so compassionately and making it seem that there is a continuity. If you didn't have this aspect in the form of Vishnu, that aspect that makes it seem like there's a continuity of moment, then you couldn't do anything. Everything would be just like totally changing, right? On fast forward, there would be no way to say, let's pause and let's think about this. So any personality that is embodied in these devas is given to you that suits your personality. And so when you worship this stone statue, you're not really worshiping, you know, a bunch of copper and calcium and potassium. You're worshiping as a symbol this Maya. So how do you then have devotion to this glorious intelligence? Through some symbol that matters to you. I was just showing Modita when AI came out very early on. These image generators came out. And I thought, you know, I really want to use this opportunity to create an image that represents this vision. And I said, how do I combine all of this into one image? And I said, well, I'm going to create a Brahman. I'm going to create an image of Brahman. And from Brahman comes what? Intelligence, Maya. And what comes from that intelligence? The Jagat, the world. And what's inside the Jagat? The Jiva. And what's inside besides the Jiva? There's also a Jivan Mukta, the one who knows the truth of itself as that Brahman. So I created that, and this is what we came up with. Let me just turn it on. So I encourage you to, if you were to embody this vision in an image that, just to exercise your creativity a little bit, represents this vision for you, what would you want to see? What kind of a symbol would you need to produce? Let's put aside the symbols that are already created for us, that was already created by other creative minds. If you were to use your own creativity, what would you create that represents this whole vision at once? It's a good exercise, isn't it? Because we all have that creative potential. So here, let me just put brightness. Okay, so here we have the image of person is Brahman. And see the book. So what's from, that's Maya. And then see the circle. That's the Jagat. And see the people worshipping towards the Jivan Mukta. So Jivan Mukta, that means show us what you know. And the Jivan Mukta knows himself as that very reality of Brahman. So Brahman, Ishvara, we'll get to Ishvara, Brahman, Maya, Jagat and Jiva. All in one. Yeah, what is manifest? See, you cannot break certain laws, so you cannot manifest anything. We have this idea that, you know, I am the creator, I can manifest anything. This goes on in some circles. And maybe that's done unintentionally, but the unqualified mind takes something like the law of secret and it goes, now I can truly manifest anything. But it's actually arrogance, because the person is trying to be the creator. A little being, a little dot in this universe. Just zoom yourself out, please. Now, on this vast earth, there's a little being who's saying, I can create anything. They don't even know how to, okay, if you can create anything, then create antibodies in your body so you never get sick. Come on, create that. Okay, so a little being, you zoom out on a little earth, and zoom out a little earth, and you can't even find it anymore from the standpoint of Mars. And there's a little someone there saying, you know, I want a power. Even if you had a power to move Earth, what is that in respect to the entire solar system? It's a little minuscule thing. And so, right, these powers, as nice as they are, they really just reinforce that ahamkara. I can do it. I am a creator. So, like we said, anything has a plus or minus. Now, so the jiva cannot create anything, otherwise they would have done it by now. It's very simple. It's very simple. They go on the stages and they say, you are the creator of your life. You know, you can create anything. But I look at that person's life and they have the same thing. They have a wife, they have a car, they have a house. That's what everyone else has. Okay? Now, in terms of superpower, I would just use a siddhi for that word, which again is not that of a big deal at all. So, next point. Maya is of the nature of the three gunas. Okay, and sattva, rajas, and tamas. Trigunatmika. So, see, we started out saying that Maya's definition is all knowledge, all power. Sarva Jna, Sarva Shakti. Now suppose you say, this is a little bit too abstract for me. Give me something more concrete that I can relate with. Understandable. So the way to convert that abstractness, that intelligence, which you can't imagine, as you just rightfully said, into something more like I can relate to it, that's when we use the Triguna model. So we're still speaking of Maya. We're just saying now Maya is 3 gunas. It's not like 3 gunas is different from Maya. So on one hand, to understand Maya, you say it's all knowledge, all power. On the other hand, to understand Maya, you slightly change the model. You don't say it's all knowledge, all power. Now you say it's made of 3 gunas. It's simple as that. It's not something new. It's just another way to relate to it. And so it says this variety of forms in this world, which are manifestations of Maya, you can observe 3 common traits in this manifest world. And thus you can infer they must belong to Maya. And so you get to know Maya by what you observe in this world. So what are these things that we observe in the world? Well, we observe them, for example, in nature. Did you ever have a day in your country which was quiet and still? No wind, calm, sattvic. And then you have that noisy, windy, it's just loud, rajasic, very active. And then you have those other days like murky and just dark and gloomy, tamasic. And then you have the same thing with a sloth. A sloth is very slow animal and moves slow. A snail, tamasic. And then you have a very alive and dynamic, like a dolphin, sattvic. And then you have a very active and fast, like a leopard. And then you have, look at a cell. Use one cell. A cell is able to have intelligence, a white blood cell. How do I ward off diseases? Where is that intelligence inside a cell? Can you see it? Because all I see are atoms, don't I? But there is a certain intelligence, a sattva guna. Guna just means quality. An intelligent sattva quality inside that cell. And that cell is able to be destroyed. That means it has a certain amount of death. That's tama guna. And that cell is able to, you see it actually just consuming that bacteria inside itself and breaking it apart. That power, raja guna. And then you can see that in humans too. A human who is calm, empathetic, reaches out, has clean thoughts, right? When they look at someone that they could take advantage of, it doesn't happen. Because you say that person is vulnerable and I'm not going to take advantage of them. That's sattva guna. But somebody else shows up and says, you know what? I can take so much advantage of them. That is that selfish, ambitious, lack of sattva gunish raja guna. That means there is still that raja guna, but it doesn't have that backup of that sattva guna. So the person does what they do. And then there is other times when you are just slow and lethargic and just cloudy. I mean, it's not a matter of brain dementia or anything. It's just that you're sharp usually, but then one day you just start falling asleep. Falling down and slow and tired. We all experience that, haven't we? And you even see that in the teacher. One day they have a certain brightness about them. The next day they have a more of an active thing about them. The next day they're more slow and lethargic and more kind of, a little bit dragging out. This is why? Because everything here is Maya, 3 gunas. Therefore, no one is exception from these 3 traits. And so, now we have these 3 modes. What are they? They're sattva guna. This is the mode of knowledge. Whenever information or knowledge or any form of clarity or information comes through, that is Maya's sattva guna. When you have that moment of epiphany, aha, That's sattva guna.
We said that Prakriti is made up of these three gunas,
Yeah.
Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. So is Maya equal to Prakriti?
Maya slash Prakriti, same words. Slash three gunas. So this is the beauty of the scriptures. We don't always stick with one word. We have multiples to keep us entertained. So Rajas is mode of activity or energy or motion. So again, you can see that everywhere. There's motion, there's activity, there's movement of life, even time. Time goes forward. What does that mean? It is Raja Guna. And Tamas is mode of inertness or solidity. This is very hard. Why? Tamaguna. Can't penetrate it. Even though it's nothing but knowledge, can't penetrate this. And then it asks, how do we know that Maya is of these three gunas? And then the statement continues, Karya anumeya suddhya eva Maya. Because Maya's existence is inferred from her effects. And what are these effects? Again, you got sattva guna. So now let's talk about these gunas at the individual level. I talked about them at the more of a macrocosmic. Sattva, knowledge, the blueprint of things. How will the, photosynthesis and the sun, how will that communicate? How will the seasons, how many seasons will there be? When will the plants sprout? What color will the seeds, not what color will the skin be, etc. This is all blueprint about creation. Anywhere you look, there's just so much information in a single leaf. You can study a leaf for 1 year. And you zoom in on the leaf and you see an intranet network of veins. Like, wow, who arranged it in such a nice, orderly fashion? You look at a sunflower and those seeds take a Fibonacci sequence. That means they're like a little spiral. And the spiral is so well arranged that you can fit as many seeds as possible inside that little circle. Because they have a certain bend to them. And then we look at that and go, oh, this is the Fibonacci kind of arrangement. So let's take this into mathematics. This is already built into nature. And you look at a spider's web. A spider's web is, how does a spider know to connect the web and then connect another strand of web and then another strand? And it's not just a random creation, is it? It's not just a randomness. It's a geometrically accurate assimilation of the web. And that web has a purpose, doesn't it? To catch flies and insects. So the spider must be imbued with knowledge of what it means to spin the web and must have some connection to mosquitoes and flies, otherwise it would have never spun the web. The spider doesn't learn this. It gets born imbued with sattva guna, and thus it acts appropriately. So
Evolution is also part of Maya.
absolutely. So again, and that whole process of timing, everything has a time for the flower to blossom at the right season, for the dinosaurs to have their turn, and then end to give way to mammals. Without the dinosaurs being extinct, we would not be here. So now in a long picture, you see it had a purpose. And so every disaster that happens, and it's not a random disaster. There's a certain order to it, a certain structure. Whenever the extinction of the beings, which has already happened many times, we had multiple extinctions of plants and animals due to toxic atmosphere. We had comets fall, right? We had all of this, and every single time it almost decimated 70 to 80% of all life on Earth. And the way that it's made, because everything is pervaded by sattva guna, it finds a way. Life finds a way no matter what. If you give it the right constituents, you give it water, something happens that you have the first form of single-celled organisms. And then you have cyanobacteria, which were capable of delivering oxygen, oxygenating the atmosphere. A long time ago, about 2+ billion, or more billions of years ago, about 2.6, I think, I don't know, oxygenated our atmosphere that we now breathe by these little single-celled organisms. Who prays to them? You see, we totally ignore this. We just get born and you pray for a car or an iPhone. And yet these little things that you can only see under a microscope, they are the reason why we get the chance to realize I am the self. So you can see how deep the worship goes, this devotion. How many things the Maya has been helping you all this time, doing all these sacrifices for you. That's why we in the Vedic culture sacrifice or have these yajnas back to Ishvara. Here, let me give you my appreciation. Let me give you my gratitude. Because if I understood how much you have been there for me all these lifetimes, then I would have utter devotion and utter gratitude for you. So this is where devotion comes from. It's not something that you force. It's something that you recognize by the mere act of, virtue of it giving to you constantly an opportunity for the highest of the highest. So where's a question of trickster or illusion? So at the individual level, the sattva guna, what's the positive at the individual level of sattva guna? Knowledge, clarity, compassion, love, happiness. What could be the con? Because for every pro there's a con. Conflict avoidance. Yeah. Okay, that's a good one. So you could go for access conflict avoidance because you want that sattva preservation. You don't want to lose it. Okay, so that's attachment to sattva guna. Good. This one I would go with. No, hands up, please.
Maybe when you become more sattvic, you want to retreat from life. You don't want to engage with the world as much. Maybe you don't even look down on other people who are not yet as...
Okay, so because the sattvic mind is there, now most are not there, right? They're yet to get there, so I say they're not in that mode, and so it now brings tamaguna, because to judge someone, you now have to introduce tamaguna. Intellectual pursuits, entangled, memorizing, and all about academic study. What about addiction to samadhi? To Anandamaya Kosha. That is perfect sattva guna addiction. And then we have, we call it stuck in sattva, having this very sort of pure life. And sometimes it's hard to relate. They're like the angel. And you're like, look, just get back down to earth, man. Stop pretending to be this pure thing. Probably gonna... It creates ignorance in the end. Well, because if the person is so sattvic and so peaceful, then they have no need to study anything. They just, meditate. But you can be how long in sattva guna? Forever, basically. Now, what about rajaguna? Rajaguna is activity or desire for wanting to accomplish. This is lovely. We're here because of desire. And forward movement. Sometimes we get too long stuck in one mode, so you say, let's move forward. That move forward, when the leader says, let's move forward, that's called that Rajaguna. So Rajaguna doesn't mean it's bad. When it's backed by Sattva Guna, moving forward for a reason, then it's the right kind of moving forward. But when it's backed by a lack of Sattva Guna, then I move forward without first having, hey, have you understood what we're talking about? And then I listen and I go, okay, we're ready to move forward. That's Sattva Guna. So moving forward isn't always about moving forward. How am I moving forward? That's Sattva Guna. It can also, now what's the con of Rajaguna? Suppose there's excess desire, excess energy, excess moving forward, excess aggressiveness, excess speed of accomplishing without looking, am I even making mistakes? What kind of mistakes am I making? Let me look at my feedback. You see this? So that's the con. What's the other con of Rajaguna in the aspect of nature? Tornado. It's not really a con, it's hard to say it's a con, but it's more like a phenomena that you see. Or unsettled. When we come into the class, when we do this Om Tat Sat, that's a means to take that Rajaguna down.
You're not able to sleep when you do the task.
Yeah, you're not able to sleep when there's excess Rajaguna.
Exhausting.
It's what?
Exhausting yourself.
Exhausting, yeah. Exhausting because of that racy mind. So this is why we have mindfulness practices, or why most people say, how do I manage my noisy mind? Well, the truth is you've got excess Rajaguna, you have to bring it down. Who likes a calm ocean? Calm ocean, yeah? Who likes big, loud, unsettled ocean? Yeah. Ah, yeah, okay. I wonder if that maybe says something about your guna disposition in that moment. Could be, I wonder. That's more Rajasic ocean, more powerful and thunderous and loud. And sometimes that's called power, that's the Lord's power, and you're afraid. Whoa, too much for me. So calm down a little bit, we want. And it calms down the next day, and now the same Lord says, come to me. Yesterday, I showed you my power. Today, let me show you my calmness, my sattva guna. And thus from the effects, you infer Maya's existence is inferred from her effects. You look at nature, anything, and you say, if you have thunderous and calm waves, this must be inherent in its cause. And so, by this, you can now say, Maya is of these three gunas. It's also tamas. And the advantage of this, of course, is sleep. You need to, and sleep, of course, is the most important thing in life, isn't it? Yes. By far, number one. So now, who is to say that tamas is not good? That's quite an irony, isn't it? What we often see as the lowest guna is the most refreshing, the most important. So it shows you there's no true gradations in the Lord's world. We give it gradations based on our fancies, but on a collective level, at a completely objective level, it is absolutely necessary. If we didn't have tamaguna, then we couldn't settle, we would not be stable.
Like recover after an injury or something. You know, that Rajaguna is pushing you, I want to get better, and the positive with the Tamaguna is that it helps you relax and just heal.
Exactly. Stay put in one place.
Is Tamaguna's withdrawal? Is it holding back? Is that the energy?
It's also that withdrawal, that even you can even say introverted, like withdrawing back, that's Tamaguna. I want to go out, that's Rajaguna. So it's a play of both. The con of this, of course, is laziness, procrastination, giving you homework questions and then you enter those questions in AI instead of answering it yourself. I know. That's Tamaguna, you see? Because Sattva Guna wants you to, and Rajaguna, healthy, wants you to be healthy, wants you to work, right, in a way that helps you. But Tamaguna wants the quick, easy way out. So in that sense, Tamaguna does not serve, because I allowed an easy path of resistance, the least path of resistance, to suppress, to take my ability from being more sattvic. Confusion, wrong notions, making mistakes, and they just completely slip by. This happens to all of us, and forgetfulness. Now, we're not talking about a brain that's 90-year-old brain, that forgetfulness. We're talking about a healthy brain, and that healthy brain is predominant with tamaguna, and thus it just cannot sort of connect to the knowledge. It seems to be going all over my head, that kind of feeling. You don't have that every day, do you? So now, having gone through these gunas, again, the verse says if they are observable, because we're all relating to this, if you were to put this into 3 categories, the rishis said it is sattva, rajas, and tamas. So what's important here? There's no such thing as sattva, rajas, and tamas. There's not an object. It's just a categorization system to help you relate to this power, which is all knowledge and all power. And then the verse says, this kind of discernment that we just perform, or inference, is only possible for a suddhi, an intelligent, discerning person who has faith in the scriptures with strong reasoning ability. Now, what kind of a person is that? A sattvic person. Therefore, you give the scriptures to a dominantly rajasic and tamasic person. What will they do to Maya? Oh, it's illusion. It's there to trick us. That is why you need a clear mind to expound the scriptures. Because the impure mind will always butcher the teaching. That's how it is. Therefore, for whom is this scripture for? A suddhi, a person of sattva guna dominance. So what does this mean for the rest of us? What is the goal of life if you use this chart? It is not to say that the rajas and tamas are bad. It is just to create a lifestyle that is more calmer and allows you more space to think, and has less distractions, because more distractions equals more rajaguna, that is involved and participating to keep that tamaguna down. That's all. That's all that we're being asked. And so the more I help my mind, purify my mind, undo my distortions, and change those stories that are guiding our decisions, those stories that we carry from the past that hold us back, that create a certain kind of emotion, the more I every time put effort, that's Rajaguna, put effort to change that story, it undoes that false notion, a false story that pulls you down, and it makes your mind more naturally sattvic. So a sattvic mind is not something that comes by birth, it is something that you develop. Yoga, for example, is Patanjali Yoga Sutra. And the whole thing is about really just sattvic mind, end of the day. That's why their ultimate number 8 is Nirvikalpa Samadhi. And for that, you need an extremely sattvic mind. So the whole journey has been about a sattvic mind for the individual. Without it, the scriptures will not make sense. The knowledge will be distorted. One will add their ideas and distortions onto it. So now it says, Maya is the power of the limitless Lord. Now we bring the word Ishvara. It says Isha, or another word for Isha is Ishvara. It refers to consciousness in association with Maya manifesting. So now that Maya over there, we said it is unmanifest. When it manifests, that same Maya is called Ishvara.
Once manifest? Okay.
So the potential, remember Maya means potential, that means it's not here now. So 5 minutes from now is not here now. But when it's manifest, like right now, this instant is manifest, that's called Ishvara. So now note, both Maya and Ishvara are both nothing but Sarvajna, Sarvashakti, all knowledge and all power. So let's make this very clear here. So you don't confuse what? They're both all knowledge and all power. Both for this one and here. So it's nothing but knowledge and power. Unmanifest is Maya. Knowledge and power manifest is Ishvara. So now another way to describe this is what is Ishvara? It is consciousness in association with Maya activated or Maya manifesting.
You say consciousness plus Maya is Ishvara.
Consciousness plus Maya activated is Ishvara. Because, see, that will not be entirely correct, because Maya is a specific term you give to knowledge and power that is unmanifest. So that knowledge and power isn't always manifest. Okay? It only becomes manifest. For instance, I'll show you why. A woman is a woman. A woman has a potential to be a mother. Can you call a woman that doesn't or hasn't manifested a child, can you call her a mother? No. So only when she manifests, that means all along she had that capacity, that potential, that Maya in her, all along, to manifest a world, a child. She was called woman. When she manifests the child, it's still the same woman. It's still the same person. The person is not gone. But now she gains a different name. She gains mother. So mother does not mean it's a different entity. It just means it's still the same, but you just use a different name. Which is why you can also say consciousness in association with Maya manifesting. You now also can say that very consciousness is Ishvara. You can say that two ways. Way number one, Maya, all knowledge, all power, when it manifests, that same knowledge and power is called Ishvara. That's number one. Number two, when consciousness, the final reality, Brahman, in association with Maya activated or Maya manifesting, that same consciousness, that same Brahman, you now call Ishvara. Okay? So why am I sharing both views? Because you will hear both views in Vedanta, and I want to make sure you're educated on both. In this case, I will go for view number one, Maya, which is all knowledge, all power, unmanifest. That's called Maya. When that all knowledge, all power manifests, now it's called Ishvara. That's the view that I will go for here. Now this Ishvara, being the creator of all things, because it's all knowledge, all power, becomes, thus we call it the creator. So can you call Maya creator until Maya has started manifesting? No. You cannot call Maya the creator. You cannot call Maya Ishvara or Maya the creator because there's nothing created. You can't call mother the woman if she hasn't manifested a child.
Is the relationship between Maya and Brahman the same with pot and clay?
Exactly the same. So what's the relationship between Maya or Ishvara? But we'll stay with Ishvara now because it's manifesting, right? What's the relationship between Ishvara and Brahman? It's the same relationship as pot and clay. So Ishvara thus is Mithya and Brahman is, or consciousness is, Satyam. Okay? So now can you say that Ishvara is a different entity from consciousness? See, there's this common thing where we say, oh, so who needs Ishvara? You just focus on Brahman, on consciousness. You see the wrong thinking here? all that is here is one. Now I have to understand when I say that, what do I mean all that is here is one? Yes, there are forms. There is Ishvara. There is forms, Ishvara, manifesting right now. Knowledge and power manifesting now. That's called Ishvara. But what is the relationship between that Ishvara, which is here and now, and the final truth, awareness, which is known to you right now as I am? What's that relationship? It's a Satya Mithya relationship. So let's not call Ishvara some different entity or Maya some different entity. What is Ishvara, please? You tell me. Maya manifesting. You have to add the word manifesting afterwards. Yeah. Cannot just say consciousness plus Maya. And what is the nature of both Maya and Ishvara? All knowledge, all power. And how does that all knowledge and all power, what does it manifest into? No. Ishvara is all knowledge, all power. What does it manifest as? The Jagat. And the Jiva. And the Jiva doesn't have knowledge of who and what it is because of the power of Maya. And does that power intend to make the Jiva ignorant? No. That's just how it is. By its operation, it makes the Jiva ignorant. And you can come out of this ignorance. Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam eva avashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti.